Hey guys, in this video I will be talking about how I made my school list as an international student. But before we get into it, I'm going to first of all introduce myself. So I'm Oni. I applied as an international student to medical school, and I'm also going to give about like 5 things that I did while making my school list, because I will tell you that making my school list, making that school list was one of the best things that I did to get me into med school. This would be geared towards internationals, but if you're a non-international, that's totally fine. Some of these tips will be helpful. First thing I wanted to check was, do they accept international students? Like, as obvious as it seems, you want to make sure that they do accept international students. So think about it. Are they going to accept you? Are you a Canadian international student? Are you a non-Canadian international student? Because that's apparently different. There are some that only take Canadian internationals. There's some that will take both. So you want to make sure that the school you're applying to is going to accept you. Okay, you don't want to waste money. Avoid all of that. So that's the first thing that I did. I try to make sure, try to figure out if they accept internationals. And the way you could do that is you could go onto the AMSAR booklet, I think AMSAR booklet. I forget the website you find it on, but if you Google it, I'm sure it's going to pop up. And that booklet gives you the list of schools and schools that accept internationals. You could just start making your school list from there. That's a good place to start. So I did that. I compiled a list of schools that accept internationals. And then the second thing I tried to do was I tried to look at how many of them accepted internationals in the last 2 or 3 years. So I went back, checking, did you accept internationals last year? Did you accept internationals in the last 2 years, in the last 3 years? Because there are schools, at least what I noticed, there were schools on the AMSAR booklet. They tell you they accept internationals, but they haven't accepted one international in the last 2-3 years. We don't want to do that, because what are the odds that they're going to accept you this coming application cycle, right? So it's possible that they stopped accepting, but they haven't updated AMSAR yet. It's possible that they tell you they're accepting just so they can get your money and end up not accepting. So you want to make sure that if you're applying to a school, they've actually accepted at least one international in the last 2 years, at least one. Okay, that's promising. And so what I did, the way you check for this, because I know this can be hard to check for, is sometimes they put up the statistics of in terms of race and gender and sex and religion and just different things. Of course, where you're from, they put that on their website of students that they've accepted in the past. So there are some schools that just put those up. So you can just go on their website, just look through, browse through, and you can see that. So I believe one of the schools was Penn State Hershey Medical School. They literally accept 2 internationals, at least when I checked in 2018. The previous year there were 2 internationals, and the year before there were 3. That's good. That's promising, because they are definitely accepting internationals, and so you can apply there. Check their website for class, for the class statistics, and see. Some schools put it up there, some schools don't. If you check, there's a certain school that you're really interested in, and if you're still not sure how they feel about internationals, then you call them and ask. Just ask, try to get a sense of how they're feeling, how they feel about internationals. Ask how many internationals they have in the last year. Ask what their resources are for internationals. The more information you get, the more if it's the right place for you to apply to. If they have lots of resources for internationals for their medical students, then that's a good place to be. So you could do that. But you want to make sure they are really and truly accepting internationals, okay, before you apply. The third thing I did was I tried to eliminate schools that had special recommendations for international students versus other students. Of course, when I'm going through this list, I'm taking off schools that just either do not accept internationals or haven't accepted internationals in the last 2 or 3 years. And the third thing was if they had special recommendations. So when I mean special recommendations, I mean just things that are different. For example, there was one school that had a special program for internationals versus their actual medical students. So the international medical students, I believe they had a 5-year program, and then everyone else had 4-year program. I personally was not interested in that. I didn't want to go through with that. I wanted to specifically try to apply to schools that would tell me, especially because I called a lot of schools, so I tried to apply to schools that would tell me you know, we don't really care if you're international or not. We just look at your application. We don't really decide, we don't really choose based off of whether you're international or not. We'll look at everyone the same. If we accept you and you happen to be international, then we're going to forward your name to the international office, and they're going to have your visa and, you know, F1 and all of that process for you. That was the response I wanted from every school that I called. And if I didn't get that response, I was not including them in my list. Okay, I just didn't want to be a problem for me. For other people, it might not be necessary. There are people who might prefer the 5-year program because you're with other internationals, and, you know, maybe they have like a special thing for you, right? I just didn't want to be separated from everyone else because I'm international, like, if that makes sense. And then there were some schools, of course, like I mentioned before, that accept only Canadian international students, and some only accept international students that completed undergrad at their college. Some would only accept, you know, DACA students. So you want to make sure that where you're applying to, that they're going to accept you. There's no special recommendation. Okay, that's something you want to look at or look for. So the fourth thing, and probably the most important thing for most international students, is the financial requirements. Now this was, oh my goodness, this was so important for me. So first thing I'm going to say is you're going to come across a couple schools that would tell you they require escrow accounts. Okay, so but what is an escrow account? For those who don't know, these are basically school accounts where you pay about 2 to 4 years tuition upfront. Is of course a major issue for internationals because we are not eligible to apply for federal loans, and med school is extremely expensive. Okay, it's super expensive. Close to 90% of students who go to medical students are taking loans for sure. They take federal loans, no questions. But for internationals, we're not eligible for federal loans. So, and that's actually one of the major reasons medical schools don't really accept internationals, because they're not sure you can pay. It's a lot of money. And some schools that do accept internationals, they want to make sure that you're able to pay. And so they have 2 to 4 years, like they require that you put in 2 to 4 years of your tuition. And so, knowing full well that med school could cost up to $400,000 for the really expensive ones for 4 years, if you cannot pay $400,000 straight up into an account before starting medical school, take that school off your list. Just take it off. Don't even bother. Don't even go thinking, you know, they love me, they want me. If I'm able to explain to them, maybe they would keep me. Nah. There's a lot of kids on the wait list to replace you. I'm sorry, but that's the truth. So don't think like that. And it's also going to look bad on your part because they put it on their website. They literally told you, if you don't, you need to have an escrow account. They told you have to pay 2 years to 4 years straight up. They told you. And you saw that and you still went on to apply. So that just looks bad on you. So we don't want to get into a school and have that be an issue for you not getting in. So just save your coins, save your money, save your time, save your energy, all the interview money, save all of that, and just apply to a school that would not require all of that. That's definitely what I was saying in terms of financial requirements. And okay. I don't know how YouTubers do this. Okay, so I think it's the fifth thing is look at your stats, and also look at the average stats of the school that you decide to apply to. You want to make sure that it's similar. Like, be true to yourself. This is one thing that you have to be. Just be true to yourself. Let's say your MCAT score is sitting at like a 504, and you're applying to a school that has a minimum of a 505. You're gonna get pushed out before you even know it. Of course, apply to reach schools, right? Apply. But just don't make that a majority of your list. Make sure majority of your list will accept you. Like, make sure that you're sitting at an average that a majority of your list will accept, right? Because yeah, you just increase your chances. You got to be true to yourself, you know. And this is one thing I did. Like, I called some schools because I personally felt insecure about my MCAT score. Like I've said so many times, like the 121 on critical reading was problematic. Like, it was problematic because a lot of the schools, not a lot, but a good number of schools don't even accept students who have MCAT scores of 124 and below. Like, some of them are like, we can only take a minimum of 124 in each section. And so I had to, like, of course, take those schools off my list because there's no point. And so for some schools that I felt insecure about, I would call them and be like, okay, you know, this is me. I'm an international student. Do you all accept international students? Yes. Do we have like any special recommendations, or is it, no, it's all the same. Just apply. We look at you all the same. Great. Next question is, okay, this is my MCAT score. They're like, oh, you know, 504 is fine. Like, okay, I have a 121 in cars. Is that still good? Like, I just keep asking, and they're like, yeah, you know, some of them would be like, you know, we look at other things in your application. We're not only looking at the MCAT score. That's a good sign for me. Some of them could be lying, but at least you didn't freak out when I told you 121. You know, I'm looking for a reaction. And I did get a reaction from a school. I called a school and I asked them about, I told this lady, and I told her my MCAT, and she was like, you know, you could still apply, it's still fine, you know, we'll look at other things in your application. And then I was like, okay, but I have a 121 on cars. And she was like, okay, look, honey, I'm sorry, but I can't help you here. You need to go retake that MCAT. That's literally what she told me. And I was like, okay, great, thank you. And I took this school off my list. I just took it off my list. There was no point, because this was an admissions officer, and I could already tell that she was trying so hard not to discourage me. But once I said the 121, that was it for her. She could not even, she was like, nope. I just didn't have to bother. At least that's me saving some money there. I was able to replace that school with a different school. So, you know, these are things that you want to look at, and just definitely try calling the school and seeing what the admissions officer thinks, and, you know, seeing how involved they are with like helping you out. And if they try to get you to not feel insecure about your MCAT score or your GPA, that's a good sign. You know, they're trying to tell you to boost other parts of your application. That's a good sign. Like, just talk to them. Like, they are actually, some of them are actually helpful. That's definitely what I did, and that was helpful for me in solidifying my list. Of course, this is just, of course, I did my college degree here in the US, but I do know that some people who are applying international did not. So you want to make sure that other requirements, like, you know, English requirements like the IELTS, TOEFL, are up to date. You want to make sure the prerequisite classes are still taken. You know, some schools want you to have they require that you have a bachelor's degree, of course, but some of them are like, you know, even if you've had your bachelor's degree, they still want you to have like a year of like school done in the US, like a couple credits done in the US. Some of them want 2 years of credits done in the US. Just make sure if you don't have those, you don't apply to schools that require those. So just make sure you're up to par with the requirements. But like other things like, you know, DO versus MD, and school location and opportunities they offer, and class size, prestige, board passing rates, match rates, all of that, I looked at all of those after I'd gotten my interview and I had gotten accepted. For me, it was, I just need to get in, okay? I just need to get in. I'm here. I just need to get in. So I got in, and then I started looking at those like other extra things. So yeah, that's pretty much all I did. I hope this was helpful. Before I forget, when I was applying, I made an extensive list of schools. I literally went through all the schools that accept internationals. I put, like, for some of them, I put information in terms of if they required like an escrow account and how many years of escrow accounts they required. There were some schools that only accepted Canadian internationals. I put that on there. Like, I just made a whole list of schools that accept internationals with like important information. Click on my page and you're gonna find the list of schools that accept internationals. So if you happen to call a school and they tell you they're now accepting internationals or they're no longer accepting internationals, feel free to let me know. Just shoot me a DM, and I would make that correction on the page. Of course, this is a nice list to help internationals out there. It will be helpful if you reached out and you're able to help me update the list for other internationals and for yourself too. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have. I hope this was helpful, and I hope you guys have a great day, and please stay safe.